Have you ever felt, just utterly overwhelmed by life's unexpected curveballs, or maybe found yourself trapped in the same frustrating patterns, wishing there was some kind of hidden roadmap to building real resilience? If that sounds familiar, even a little bit, then you're definitely in the right place today.
Yeah.
We're embarking on what I think is an extraordinary deep dive into an incredibly insightful source. 13 things mentally strong people don't do.
It's a great one.
It really is.
Yeah.
And this isn't just another self-help list, It's more like a profound exploration, a true roadmap, really, to understanding those subtle, often subconscious habits that can quietly sabotage our mental strength.
Right. The things we do without even realizing sometimes.
Exactly. So our mission today is to unpack these habits, understand the impact they have, and ultimately figure out how we can flip the script to cultivate, unwavering resilience in our own lives.
And what's truly fascinating about this book, I think, is that the author, Amy Morin, isn't just talking theory. She's not just an expert on paper. She draws directly from this crucible of profoundly personal, really challenging experiences. Her journey, it's just steeped in loss and unforeseen hardship.
Yeah.
And it's not just like a backdrop to her advice. It is the foundation of the principles she shares. It gives it this incredible authenticity, this real weight.
Absolutely. The book opens with such a poignant, such a raw story. It just immediately draws you in. So it's 3 years after her mother's death, a loss she was still very much processing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Amy and her husband, Lincoln, they decided to honor her memory. They went to a basketball game, the very same auditorium where they'd last seen her mother alive.
Wow.
Yeah. It was meant to be a good memory, a happy one, and she actually felt this sense of progress in her grief, like life was maybe moving forward a bit.
Just a little bit of peace, perhaps.
Exactly. Quiet acknowledgement. But then, in just this cruel twist of fate, just as she's feeling that little bit of relief, her entire world is just violently turned upside down again.
It's almost unimaginable, the sequence of events. They get home from that game, and Lincoln complains of some back pain. Apparently, not totally unusual. He had had a car accident before.
Yeah.
But within minutes, he just collapsed. He'd suffered a sudden massive heart attack, and he passed away.
Oh, my gosh.
And the sheer devastating irony is that this happened on the very same weekend they were honoring her mother's 3-year anniversary.
Oh.
Yeah. Just imagine for a moment the immense, unexpected weight of that loss, grief upon grief, like a double blow that would just flatten most people.
Completely.
It's such a stark reminder of life's unpredictable nature, how quickly everything can just change.
And the struggles just kept compounding.
Yeah.
Suddenly she's down to one income, facing huge financial pressure.
Right.
She had to go back to work while still, deeply, profoundly grieving her husband. And then adding to all that emotional and practical burden, they had been foster parents. And they had planned to adopt, but now she faced this daunting prospect of pursuing adoption as a single woman. Yet somehow, through all this unimaginable adversity, she started taking these proactive, almost defiant steps forward. It's kind of amazing.
What did she do?
Well, she got her motorcycle license and bought a motorcycle.
No way.
Yeah, like a bold venture into the unknown, maybe a symbol of personal freedom. And she began writing, which then unexpectedly blossomed into a part-time job.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, giving her a new avenue for expression and some income. And then she had to navigate and renegotiate all those relationships with Lincoln's friends and family, figuring out who would stay close,
That must have been so hard.
Incredibly. But fortunately, many did stick by her, and his family, remarkably, continued to treat her as their own.
That's wonderful amidst the tragedy. Her journey continued, though, showing just incredible resilience. About 4 years after Lincoln's death, she found love again with Steve.
Okay, yeah.
They decided to move a few hours away for a fresh start, closer to her sister and nieces, a move filled with hope, the promise of a new chapter. Life seemed to be settling down, finally into a comfortable rhythm. But then another profound challenge emerged. Steve's father, Rob, was diagnosed with terminal cancer.
Oh, no.
Yeah. This time, the grief was different, she says. It was expected, slow, agonizing, this dreadful anticipation of loss, which was such a stark contrast to the suddenness of her mother's and Lincoln's deaths.
Right.
She describes thinking, just with this heavy heart, here we go again.
So these compounding tragedies, they weren't just personal hardships, right? Not just isolated incidents of bad luck.
Yeah.
As she describes it, they became this crucible, a profound test that really forged her understanding of human resilience. She realized that while we all try to do things to make ourselves better, to build ourselves up.
Yeah, we read the books, we set the goals.
Exactly. We often overlook the subtle, sometimes subconscious habits that actively sabotage our efforts. And that, right there, that's the core insight of her work.
That's powerful.
Mental strength, she discovered, isn't some abstract concept. It's an absolutely essential skill for navigating all of life's problems, whether they're minor daily frustrations or those overwhelming, life-altering crises.
Right, it's foundational.
It really is. It's the fundamental ability to manage your thoughts, your emotions, and your behaviors in a way that helps you move forward, regardless of what life throws at you.
And this raises such an important question, one we should probably pause on. What exactly is mental strength? And maybe even more crucially, what is it not?
Good point.
Because the author makes it very clear, it's not about being impervious to pain or like emotionless. It's not about putting on a brave face and denying your feelings.
Okay.
Instead, it's about choosing your behavior based on a balanced interplay of your emotions and your rational thinking. Think of it like a mental thermostat, maybe.
I like that.
You feel an emotion, right? But you don't just react impulsively, you process it through the lens of reason. She uses her own snake phobia as a perfect, really relatable example.
Right.
She's genuinely terrified of snakes, even the harmless little ones in Maine. Her heart races, her body screams, run away, but her rational thoughts kick in, reminding her there's no logical reason for this intense fear. The snake is harmless, it poses no threat. She can then consciously choose to walk past the snake, preventing her irrational fear from completely derailing her day.
Ah, okay. So it's acknowledging the fear, but not letting it control the action.
Exactly. That's the balance we're talking about.
And it's absolutely crucial to understand what it's not, too. Like you said, it's not about ignoring or denying problems exist. Actually, it's the opposite. It's about having the courage and clarity to confront them head on.
Right. Not sweeping things under the rug.
No. And it's not about being overly positive either, which can sometimes be a form of denial, right? It's about thinking realistically and rationally, acknowledging challenges while actively seeking solutions.
Realistic optimism, maybe?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And it's not about chasing fleeting happiness as the ultimate goal, but rather about making intentional decisions that align with your values. That helps you reach your full potential and find a deeper, more sustainable sense of contentment. And this isn't some, flash-in-the-pan pop psychology trend. Its roots are firmly planted in decades of psychological research, going all the way back to the 1960s. It's got real grounding.
That's important to know. It's also vital to distinguish it from mental health. You can be incredibly mentally strong even if you're grappling with mental health issues like depression or anxiety.
It's a really key point.
It undeniably might require more work, more focused effort, more consistent practice of these habits. But it is absolutely possible to cultivate mental strength and apply these principles even while managing mental health conditions.
Right.
It's about building healthy coping mechanisms and thought patterns, regardless of your baseline emotional state.
So given all of this, why should you, our listener, care about cultivating this mental strength? What's the real payoff here?
Yeah. What's in it for me?
Exactly. Well, the benefits, as the author meticulously lays out, are clear and pretty far-reaching. First, you gain significantly increased resilience to stress. Both the minor irritations of daily life and those truly overwhelming crises. When you encounter problems, you'll be able to handle them more efficiently, more effectively, which in turn dramatically reduces your overall stress levels. Think about that. Less stress, more capacity.
And that leads directly to improved life satisfaction, right? As your mental strength grows, so does your confidence in your ability to navigate challenges.
Makes sense.
You'll find yourself behaving more consistently according to your deepest values, making choices that align with who you truly want to be. This brings this profound sense of inner peace and the ability to truly recognize and appreciate what's important in your life, rather than getting swept away by external pressures or fleeting desires.
And finally, it translates into undeniably enhanced performance across all areas of life. Whether your goal is to be a more patient, effective parent, to be more productive and innovative at work, to achieve your personal best on the athletic field, or simply to feel more capable in your daily life, increasing your mental strength provides that internal architecture to help you reach your full, true potential.
So this deep dive, it's really about uncovering those specific pitfalls, those don'ts to avoid, and then getting into the practical, actionable steps to build this essential, really life-changing strength.
Exactly. Let's get into it.
Okay.
Let's unpack the first crucial habit, the first don't, really. Mentally strong people don't shy away from change.
Chapter 3 in the book.
Right. This sounds straightforward, maybe, but it's actually a profound shift in mindset. Think about Richard, this case study she uses. A 44-year-old guy, 75 pounds overweight, and even more concerning, newly diagnosed with diabetes.
Oh, yeah.
His initial attempts to change were just overwhelming. That huge number, 75 pounds, it just felt impossible, like a mountain too high to climb. And predictably, he'd give up almost immediately.
And Richard's story really illustrates perfectly why so many of us shy away from change. One major reason is trying to change too much, too fast.
Yeah, the all-or-nothing approach.
Exactly. It instantly leads to overwhelm, and overwhelm is like the quickest path to quitting. We look at the entire journey, the whole 75 pounds, and feel defeated before we even start.
Right.
Another powerful barrier is that fear of risk or discomfort. Richard dreaded giving up his favorite foods. He imagined the pain and exhaustion of a workout, the persistent pangs of hunger.
Understandable fears.
Totally. But people consistently underestimate their ability to tolerate discomfort. We assume it'll be unbearable when actually our capacity for enduring temporary pain for long-term gain is often far greater than we realize.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because it's not just about simple discomfort like hunger pangs.
Yeah.
There's a deeper, more insidious fear that often holds us captive. The fear that things will actually get even worse if we initiate change.
Yeah. The better the devil you know kind of thinking.
Exactly. Maybe you're unhappy with your current home, but the thought of moving comes with anxieties about a new home, having bigger unforeseen problems, or worse neighbors.
Right, or ending a relationship.
Precisely. You're in a less than ideal relationship, but the terrifying thought of ending it is overshadowed by the fear that you'll never find anyone better. So you convince yourself to just maintain the status quo, even if you're deeply unhappy.
That fear, that cognitive distortion, it really traps us in stagnant situations. And there's also this powerful sense of grief associated with leaving something familiar behind, even if that something is actually detrimental.
Like Tiffany in the book?
Yeah, Tiffany, who would rather hold on to her girls' day at the mall and her shopping habits, even if it meant financial ruin, than face the discomfort of changing her spending habits and giving up those familiar routines. That familiarity is seductive.
The problem with continually shying away from change is just stark and unavoidable. It leads directly to stagnation.
You get stuck.
Totally stuck. Whether it's Richard's health deteriorating because he can't initiate healthy habits, or just getting stuck in a rut in our careers, relationships, personal growth, you won't learn new things, you won't adapt to evolving circumstances, and fundamentally your life just won't get better.
In fact, in a dynamic world, if you choose not to adapt, you actually risk being left behind. Professionally, socially, personally, change is inevitable, right?
Right.
Our choice is whether we resist it or embrace it as this catalyst for growth.
So what's the path then? How do you get to acceptance and proactive change? We see this so beautifully in Mary Deming's powerful story.
Oh yeah, her story's incredible.
Our mother tragically died of breast cancer when Mary was only 18, and her father had passed away even earlier. Initially, she coped with this profound grief through self-pity and just constantly busying herself, kind of burying her head in the sand, avoiding the pain.
A common coping mechanism.
Yeah. But then, at 50, the same age her father had been when he died, Mary herself received a devastating diagnosis of breast cancer.
Instead of succumbing to despair, though, or feeling like, why me, Mary chose a completely different path. She describes it as kicking into high gear.
Yeah.
She became heavily involved in fundraising for breast cancer research, just pouring her energy into a cause much larger than herself. She raised an astonishing $38,000 for Susan G. Komen. Incredible.
Wow.
But she didn't stop there. She discovered her home state, Connecticut, had the second highest rate of breast cancer in the entire nation. And that sparked this profound idea.
Okay.
She decided to start her own nonprofit, Seymour Pink, named after her town, transforming a local tragedy into this community-wide movement. The entire community rallied, decorating with pink, honoring survivors, memorializing loved ones. Over the years, Seymour Pink has raised almost $500,000.
That's amazing. Just from one person embracing change.
It really is a testament to what one person can do.
And what makes Mary's story even more inspiring is that her journey wasn't just about fundraising success. She overcame immense personal adversity along the way. Just 3 years into her Seymour Pink efforts, she was in a severe car accident.
Oh, no.
Yeah, left her with a traumatic brain injury, causing significant speech and cognitive issues. Most people, I think, would have given up right then.
Absolutely. Understandably.
But her resolve was just incredible. She famously declared, "I'm not going out like that." It took her 5 years of arduous rehabilitation, but she returned to teaching and, crucially, resumed her fundraising efforts.
Wow.
Her unwavering focus was always on what she could do, not what she had lost or what she couldn't control.
Mary's story provides such a powerful, actionable insight for all of us. To create a successful plan for change, you absolutely must break down those large, daunting goals into small, manageable steps.
Back to Richard.
Exactly. Think back to Richard. His shift from that overwhelming goal of losing 75 pounds to focusing on losing just 5 pounds, meticulously tracking his food, going for short, consistent walks. That made a significant difference. It made the seemingly impossible feel achievable.
Right.
Unless it's truly an all-or-nothing change, like quitting smoking cold turkey maybe, incremental steps are absolutely key to building momentum and sustaining effort. It's about building this series of small wins that accumulate into monumental transformation.
Exactly. And look at the incredible journey of Judge Greg Mathis. He came from this really challenging criminal background, a world that often traps individuals.
Yeah.
Yet he went on to become the youngest judge in Michigan, remarkably beating a 20-year incumbent. He's since dedicated his life to helping youth, now has a successful TV show. His entire career, his life trajectory, highlights the profound power of committing to behaving like the person you want to become.
That's a great quote.
Isn't it? It's not about waiting to feel like your future self. It's about embodying that future self, making those choices, taking those actions right now.
So in summary, what's not helpful when you're facing change? It's ignoring it, actively avoiding it, procrastinating.
Putting it off.
Right, letting your immediate emotions dictate your long-term choices, making endless excuses for inaction, or only focusing on the negatives of change without ever considering the immense potential positives and growth that lie on the other side.
Embracing change, as we just discussed, often brings us face to face with another critical aspect of mental strength. How we interact with others.
Yeah, the social dimension.
Because if you're truly committed to changing yourself, you also need to make sure you're not letting others derail that progress, or worse, control your internal world. Which brings us to another crucial habit. Mentally strong people don't empower other people to have power over them.
This is so critical, so important for maintaining your personal agency, your peace of mind.
It really is. Consider the uncomfortable dynamic between Lauren and her mother-in-law, Jackie, from the book. Jackie's visits were intrusive, often lasting hours, and she'd constantly undermine Lauren's authority with the children.
Oh, that's tough.
Saying things like, "A little TV won't hurt you," or "I'd let you have dessert, but your mother's convinced sugar is bad." Then it gradually escalated to these highly personal, hurtful comments about Lauren's weight.
Oh, wow. Crossing a line there. That comment about Lauren's weight was the turning point for her, wasn't it? It pushed her over the edge.
Yeah.
She stormed out of the room, her stomach churning, and began to just dread every single one of Jackie's visits, fearing another lecture, another undermining comment. Initially, she even sought anger management counseling, believing her anger was the problem she needed to fix.
Interesting. Blaming herself.
Right. And this perfectly highlights why we often give away our power. There's this strong, often subconscious desire to be a nice person, mistakenly thinking it means tolerating anything. Lauren genuinely believed being a good wife meant putting up with her mother-in-law at all costs.
Yeah.
A belief probably rooted in an upbringing that taught her to turn the other cheek, perhaps.
It's also deeply tied to a lack of confidence sometimes in one's own self-worth, fearing that setting boundaries will lead to offending others, or even worse, being disliked or rejected.
Yeah, that fear of disapproval is powerful.
But the fundamental problem here is inescapable. It's impossible to be truly mentally strong if you allow other people to control your thoughts, your feelings, and ultimately your behavior. This dynamic inevitably leads to deep-seated resentment, just like the resentment Lauren felt building inside her. It's like living with this constant simmering anger that just steals your joy.
The actionable insight, then, is to consciously reclaim your power by setting healthy boundaries. Lauren's journey to mental strength involved learning that setting limits wasn't disrespectful, but profoundly healthy for herself, for her marriage, and ultimately for her family dynamics.
So what did she do?
She and her husband together confronted Jackie. calmly explaining their concerns about the frequency of visits and the disrespectful comments about their parenting and Lauren's personal choices.
How did Jackie react?
Predictably, initially offended, tried to argue, but over time she slowly, maybe grudgingly, accepted these new boundaries. And the incredible result. Lauren no longer dreaded visits once she recognized she didn't have to tolerate rude or disrespectful behavior in her own home. She found her voice, her agency.
That's huge. And a huge, often overlooked part of reclaiming your power is stopping the energy drain. Think about it.
Yeah.
Every single time you find yourself constantly complaining about your difficult boss or your controlling mother-in-law or that irritating coworker.
You're feeding it energy.
Exactly. You're actually giving them even more power over you. You're devoting precious mental and emotional energy to them. The book wisely suggests this powerful resolution. Stop giving people your time and energy if you don't want them to play a big negative role in your life. It's a conscious decision to just divest from negativity.
And reframing your language is such a critical yet subtle component of this. Instead of saying, my boss makes me so mad, consciously shift your internal narrative to something like, my boss behaves in a manner I don't like, which influences how I feel, but they are not forcing me to be angry.
It is a subtle but powerful difference.
It is. Or if a relationship ends, instead of the self-defeating, my boyfriend left me because I'm not good enough, recognize that's simply one person's opinion. It doesn't define your inherent worth. As an adult, you have the profound choice to decide whether to let critical comments lower your self-esteem.
Yeah.
And perhaps most liberating of all is recognizing that almost everything in life is a choice, even if there are consequences. Like, instead of I have to go to work, shift to I choose to go to work because it's important for my financial well-being and my family's stability. This reframing instantly shifts your perspective from victim to agent.
Now, when we talk about reclaiming your power, a name that immediately comes to mind for so many is Oprah Winfrey.
Oh, absolutely. A prime example.
Her journey from incredibly humble and challenging beginnings. Often facing teasing for wearing potato sacks as dresses due to poverty, truly exemplifies this principle. She rose from those circumstances to become one of the world's most powerful and influential women.
Incredible story.
She refused to be a statistic. She consciously chose to define who she would be in life by consistently refusing to give away her power to her circumstances or to the opinions of others. Her entire life is just a masterclass in self-determination.
And when you're faced with criticism, the key is not to react impulsively. Instead, calm yourself down, take a deep breath, and then ask yourself, what evidence supports this criticism as true or not true? Why might this person be giving me this feedback? What's their agenda, maybe, or their perspective?
Good questions to ask.
And crucially, do I want to change any of my behavior based on my values, not theirs? Remember, one person's opinion, no matter how strongly delivered, is not universal truth. Strategies for managing your emotional response include taking deep breaths to regulate your nervous system, excusing yourself from the situation before you lose your cool, healthy distraction techniques to regain composure. The profound benefits of retaining your power are empowerment, a huge increase in self-confidence, a deep sense of self-respect, and surprisingly better, more authentic relationships because you're operating from a place of strength, not resentment.
And while we're on the topic of taking back your personal power, especially from people who might have wronged you, it naturally leads us to a deeply interconnected concept: forgiveness.
Ah, yes, letting go.
Because mentally strong people also understand the profound cost of holding grudges. The problem is just clear and devastating.
Yeah.
Holding grudges, clinging to past hurts, gives the other person immense, insidious power over your quality of life. It fills you with anger, resentment, bitterness, while they may be completely unaware or unbothered.
Nelson Mandela, a man who certainly knew a thing or two about justified anger and the power of letting go, famously said, resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies.
Wow, that's vivid.
Isn't it? A powerful metaphor that cuts right to the core of the issue. The actionable insight here is to practice forgiveness, and it's essential to clarify what forgiveness is and is not. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting the wrong that was done. It absolutely doesn't mean condoning the behavior.
Important distinction.
What it does mean is letting go of the hurt and anger so that it doesn't continue to consume you. You can forgive someone for your own peace of mind and still make the conscious choice not to have contact with them. Your forgiveness is about your freedom, not theirs.
And the health benefits of this practice are truly astounding, supported by significant research. Studies consistently show forgiveness actively reduces stress, leading to measurable decreases in blood pressure and heart rate.
Wow. Physical benefits.
Yeah. It even increases your tolerance to pain. A powerful 2005 study on chronic low back pain patients found that anger significantly increased their distress and decreased their pain tolerance, while a willingness to forgive was directly associated with an increased pain tolerance.
That's incredible.
And here's the crucial, almost unbelievable point. A 2012 study published in the Journal of Behavioral Medicine discovered that unconditional forgiveness can actually lead to a longer life.
Get out.
Really. The implication here is profound. If you wait for an apology or for the other person to change before you release your anger, you are, in essence, giving them control not just over your present emotional state, but potentially even over your very lifespan.
That puts a whole new perspective on holding a grudge.
Now let's talk about the profound impact of control, or maybe the illusion of it, and how it shapes our mental landscape. Mentally strong people don't waste energy on things they can't control. This is chapter 4, I think.
The big one.
It's not just a platitude. It's about incredibly conscious energy management, directing your focus where it can actually make a difference. Take Heather, for example, a dedicated mesothelioma patient advocate mentioned in the book.
Okay.
She openly admits that despite her advocacy work, her inspiring fight, she still grapples with the pervasive fear of her cancer returning. It's a terrifying, uncontrollable thought.
Understandably. But what's remarkable about Heather is her strategy. Instead of letting that fear consume her, she consciously chooses to write down exactly what scares her most about the cancer returning.
Okay, gets it out.
Gets it out. Then she makes a deliberate, rational acknowledgement that this outcome is, to a large extent, outside her direct control. And once she's identified that uncontrollable fear, she redirects her immense energy towards what she can control.
Like what?
Like living her life to the fullest possible extent, cherishing every moment, pouring her passion into helping others as a patient advocate. This is the essence of true mental strength in the face of immense challenge, focusing the energy.
This brings us directly to a core psychological concept.
Yeah.
Locus of control. It describes where individuals believe that control over their lives originates.
Right. Internal versus external.
Exactly. People with an external locus of control tend to believe life is primarily dictated by outside forces, fate, luck, destiny. They often think whatever's meant to be will be, or it's out of my hands.
Kind of passive.
Yeah. On the other hand, those with a strong internal locus of control believe they have complete control over their future, taking full responsibility for both their successes and failures. Now, while taking responsibility is vital, an extreme internal locus can lead to unrealistic expectations and self-blame.
True. You can't control everything.
Right. The author highlights that the optimal balance, leading to maximum happiness and peace, is what she calls bilocal expectancy.
Bilocal expectancy.
Okay, it means wisely discerning where can I take action and truly influence things, while also calmly acknowledging, and where do I need to let go and accept what's beyond my sphere of influence? It's the profound difference between, say, diligently preparing for a storm and trying to stop the rain itself.
That's a great analogy. The problem with trying to control the uncontrollable is that it leads to immense frustration, chronic stress, and this profound sense of helplessness. It's like constantly pushing against a brick wall. You expend enormous energy, achieve nothing, and only exhaust yourself. It fundamentally prevents you from focusing your precious mental and physical resources on what truly matters and what you can change. We see this play out vividly with Jenny in the book. At 20, she decided to drop out of college to pursue her passion for art.
Uh-oh. Parent nightmare.
Pretty much. Much to her mother's horror and dismay. Her mother, driven by fear for Jenny's future, tried desperately to control her daughter's choices by calling daily, lecturing, even threatening to cut off contact.
Jenny's mother was operating from a place of deep concern, sure, but she mistakenly believed she could control Jenny's choices through sheer force of will or emotional manipulation.
And did it work?
Unfortunately, her intense attempts to control not only failed to motivate Jenny to change her path, but tragically, they ruined their relationship.
Ouch. So the actionable insight here is powerful and maybe counterintuitive. Your aim should be to influence, not control.
Subtle but critical distinction.
Huge distinction. Strategies for healthy influence include listening first, truly hearing the other person before speaking. When you do share your opinion, do it once, calmly, clearly, and then resist the urge to repeat it or hammer it home.
Don't nag.
Basically, yeah. You can also strategically change your behavior to influence theirs rather than demanding change from them, like the wife choosing to spend quality time with her husband when he's sober rather than nagging him constantly about his drinking. And always point out the positive with genuine praise, completely avoiding any hint of, I told you so.
It's also about radical acceptance sometimes, isn't it? You can accept that your boss is perhaps inherently mean-spirited, or that your kids might not be destined for Ivy League universities.
Right. Acceptance doesn't mean approval.
Exactly. This doesn't mean you can't try to influence them or seek different opportunities for yourself, but it means you stop trying to force them to be different people, to conform to your expectations. That acceptance frees up immense mental energy.
A truly inspiring and globally recognized example of focusing on what you can control in the face of unimaginable adversity is Terry Fox.
Oh, legendary.
Diagnosed with osteosarcoma at just 18, leg amputated, faced a grim prognosis. But instead of dwelling on what he had lost or the unfairness, he chose to focus intensely on what he could control. His spirit, his determination, his physical endurance.
A marathon of hope.
Exactly. Running across Canada on one prosthetic leg to raise cancer research funds. He ran nearly a marathon every single day for 143 days, covering over 5,300 kilometers before his cancer returned and forced him to stop. His legacy lives on, having raised over $650 million globally in his honor.
Just incredible.
Yeah.
A profound, powerful example of transforming personal tragedy into immense agency and global impact.
The benefits of giving up the need for absolute control are truly immense. Increased happiness, thanks to that buy local expectancy we talked about, profoundly better relationships characterized by fewer trust issues, a greater willingness to ask for and receive help.
Less stress.
Significantly less stress in the long run as you release the burden of trying to orchestrate everything. And a surprising opening up of new opportunities because you'll be less afraid of the unknown and more adaptable. An extreme internal locus of control can sometimes create tunnel vision, right?
Yeah, you miss things.
You miss things if they aren't directly related to your initial rigid plans. So releasing control can actually lead to more success.
For troubleshooting, remember to delegate tasks where you can. Don't be afraid to ask for help from others. Focus your efforts ruthlessly on solvable problems, and always keep the emphasis on influencing others rather than controlling them.
Don't waste energy trying to prevent the storm. Focus on preparing for it.
Right. It's a strategic allocation of your most precious resources: time, energy, attention.
Next, Chapter 6 talks about how mentally strong people don't shy away from risks. And let's be very clear, this isn't about being reckless or impulsive. It's about embracing calculated risk-taking.
Calculated is the key word there.
Absolutely. Consider Dale, the shop teacher in the book, who harbored this long-held dream of starting his own furniture business. His struggle was a classic example of risk aversion, the daunting financial investment required, the uncertainty of not having a physical storefront, the sheer anxiety of stepping into the unknown. He was passionate, but paralyzed by fear.
His turnaround is really quite illuminating, though. The author points out that as he even began thinking seriously about making his dream a reality, just the mental commitment, his mood showed a marked improvement.
Just thinking about it helped.
Yeah. He then took a calculated first step, started building furniture part-time, selling the pieces online, testing the waters without fully committing his life savings or quitting his job.
Smart, dipping a toe in.
Exactly.
Oh.
And here's the unexpected kicker. He found a renewed passion for teaching shop class. The prospect of his own business seemed to spark that passion again, and he was excited to share the new things he was learning with his students. He wasn't even convinced he wanted to quit teaching anymore. His dream actually enriched his current work.
That's fascinating. We often avoid risks because our emotions tend to override our logic. We incorrectly assume this direct linear correlation between our fear level and the actual risk level.
Right. If I feel scared, it must be dangerous.
Exactly. The author uses that relatable, almost funny analogy about her pet cat, Jet, who's terrified of scary images on a computer screen, even though there's no logical threat. Humans do this too, making significant life decisions based on raw emotion or ingrained habit rather than truly calculating the actual risk.
We don't crunch the numbers.
We don't predict probabilities or measure the potential impact often enough. Think about driving speed. You might impulsively speed, feeling a rush, but without truly calculating the actual increased risk of an accident or a costly ticket, or genuinely weighing the minimal time savings against those significant risks.
The profound problem with constantly avoiding risks is that it means you inevitably miss out on significant opportunities. It keeps you firmly anchored in a comfortable, predictable life, but it prevents you from truly living an extraordinary one, from reaching your full potential.
It's less about spectacular failure and more about settling for quiet mediocrity, maybe. A life filled with what-ifs.
Yeah, exactly. The actionable insight is to deliberately take calculated risks by diligently understanding both the probability of various outcomes and their potential impact. This involves doing your research, weighing the pros and cons, making informed decisions, not just reacting to fear.
And to reframe and master your fear, consider the radical experiment of psychologist Albert Ellis. He was notoriously terrified of rejection, especially from women.
Oh, wow.
To confront this head-on, he set this truly audacious goal. Talk to women daily at a botanical garden. Out of 130 women he approached, 30 walked away immediately, but he initiated conversations with the rest. Out of 100 date invitations, only one said yes.
Only one?
Only one, and then she didn't even show up. Yet, Ellis didn't despair or feel defeated. This experiment, though full of rejection, profoundly reinforced to him that he could, in fact, tolerate the discomfort of rejection, and that his fears of it were, in a very real sense, irrational and exaggerated. He conquered his fear by repeatedly exposing himself to it.
That's a powerful lesson in exposure therapy, basically. Another incredibly inspiring example is Othmar Ammann, the world-renowned bridge builder, responsible for iconic structures like the George Washington Bridge.
Okay.
Remarkably, he switched careers at 62, an age when most people are planning retirement, and continued creating architectural masterpieces until he was 86.
Wow, at 62.
Yeah. He chose to pursue his dream and continued to take calculated risks late in life, proving that innovation and bold leaps are not just for the young. What's not helpful here is ignoring the facts, acting impulsively without thought, or simply refusing to step outside your comfort zone and experience the discomfort that invariably comes with growth and calculated risk-taking.
Moving forward, Chapter 7 tackles something huge. Mentally strong people don't dwell on the past. This is an incredibly common trap for so many of us. Marianne Williamson's poignant quote sums it up perfectly. "We do not heal the past by dwelling there. We heal the past by living fully in the present."
Powerful. It's about recognizing that yesterday's struggles don't have to define today's potential.
This concept manifests in countless ways. Consider Gloria, the 55-year-old woman whose 28-year-old unemployed daughter had moved back in for the 12th time.
12th time, wow.
Yeah. Her daughter spent days watching TV, surfing the internet, making demands for hotel and maid services, basically treating her mother's home like a free resort. Gloria felt compelled to enable this, to offer the absolute least she could do, because she carried deep shame and guilt over her past parenting.
The guilt connection.
Exactly. After her divorce, she admitted to dating many unhealthy men, investing too much emotional energy in drinking and dating rather than actively parenting her daughter. She felt, subconsciously, that her past mistakes were the direct, sole reason her daughter was struggling now, and therefore she was obligated to enable her.
The signs of dwelling on the past are often quite pervasive, aren't they? You might find yourself constantly replaying memories like a movie, imagining different outcomes or should-haves, punishing yourself for past missteps, feeling this persistent, heavy sense of shame.
Yeah, people might subconsciously believe they don't deserve happiness in the present due to past failures, or they might simply fear moving forward. The author herself felt this after her mother's and Lincoln's deaths, experiencing an intense desire for their belongings to remain frozen in time, fearing that moving on meant somehow leaving their memories behind.
And when we recall unpleasant past events, our minds also have this tendency to exaggerate and catastrophize them, making them seem even worse than they actually were.
The fundamental problem with dwelling on the past is that it keeps you utterly stuck. It prevents you from experiencing joy and fulfillment in the present moment, and as we saw with Gloria, it can lead directly to enabling unhealthy behaviors in others, perpetuating dysfunctional cycles.
It also distorts your memories, making them seem far worse or more defining than they truly were.
Gloria's breakthrough came when she had this profound realization. Continuing to be a bad parent by enabling her daughter in the present was actually worse than having been one in the past.
Wow, that's a powerful shift.
Isn't it? This motivated her to set clear, firm boundaries. She told her daughter she needed to actively look for work, and in 2 months she would need to pay rent. Although her daughter was upset initially, she started looking for work within days and, to Gloria's astonishment, eventually landed a career track job, showing new aspirations and independence.
So actionable insights to truly make peace with the past include focusing intently on the lessons learned from tough times, right? How those experiences, however painful, ultimately changed you for the better.
Yeah. And when recalling a past event, try to focus on the objective facts, the specific details like where you sat at a funeral or what you wore, rather than getting lost solely in the raw emotion. This factual recall can significantly reduce distress.
Interesting technique.
Also, consciously try looking at the situation differently, knowing that you control how you narrate your own story. Gloria, for instance, realized her daughter's current choices weren't all her fault. Her daughter was an adult making her own decisions.
It's also about profoundly giving yourself permission to move forward. Moving forward does not mean forgetting. It means actively choosing to enjoy the present moment and making the best decisions for you right now, for your own well-being.
And recognizing the immense emotional toll that dwelling takes. It offers this short-term, deceptive escape from the present, but it comes with long-term consequences, causing you to literally miss out on the richness of life unfolding around you.
Practice forgiveness again, for yourself or for others, to truly release the lingering hurt and anger. And crucially, change any behaviors that might be keeping you stuck, like actively avoiding activities that might bring up old memories.
And finally, and this is very important, acknowledge when past trauma is too great to manage alone. Seeking professional help for issues like PTSD is not a sign of weakness, but immense strength and wisdom.
Think about the fascinating life of J.M. Barrie, the beloved author of Peter Pan. He faced incredible pressure from his family to be exactly like his deceased older brother David, who had been the family favorite.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Barrie struggled deeply to grow up, trying in a sense to remain a child, which some historians even suggest seemed to stunt his physical growth. He longed to be an author, but his family pushed him relentlessly towards university and a more traditional path. He ultimately found a powerful compromise. He studied literature, which eventually led to his incredibly successful writing career. He didn't allow the shadow of his past or the expectations of others to completely dictate his unique path.
Another truly powerful example is Rhonda Ward, a victim of horrific childhood sex abuse. Instead of letting her past define her or consuming herself with anger, she transformed her experience into this profound mission. She became a legal advocate, traveling to families to help them break cycles of abuse, helping others navigate a path she tragically knew all too well.
Wow.
She chooses every single day to focus on what she can do in the present to help others rather than dwelling on her horrific past. What's not helpful in this journey, ignoring the past and pretending it didn't happen, letting it define your entire identity, or continuously punishing yourself for things that happened, especially those beyond your control.
Shifting gears now, let's confront a habit that trips up so many of us.
Yeah.
Mentally strong people don't repeat the same mistakes. This is Chapter 8. It might seem incredibly obvious, but it's a huge, insidious pitfall for countless individuals.
Oh, yeah. We all know someone, or maybe it's us.
Right. You know you're likely repeating mistakes if you consistently can't break bad habits, if you make never-again promises that you consistently break, or if your motivation mysteriously disappears as soon as you feel the slightest discomfort or face a challenge.
We often repeat mistakes due to subconscious self-sabotage. It's a strange paradox. When things are going well, especially too well, we might actually feel anxious, almost waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Right, like it's too good to be true.
Exactly. And to relieve that uncomfortable anxiety, we sometimes almost deliberately revert to old self-destructive behaviors, creating the very chaos we subconsciously anticipate. There's also just a powerful, often underestimated comfort in old habits, even if they're unhealthy. The familiarity, the predictability can be more alluring than the uncertainty of genuine, lasting change.
The problem with continually repeating the same mistakes is simple, yet devastating. You won't reach your goals, whether they're personal, professional, or health-related. Your problems will stubbornly persist, never truly resolving.
You just spin your wheels.
Totally. You'll develop a negative self-perception, a deep-seated belief that you're incapable of change. This leads to exerting less effort in the future, frustrating those around you, and perhaps most damagingly, you might even develop incredibly irrational beliefs to excuse your behavior.
Like what?
Like the overweight person deciding, oh, I'm just big-boned, I wasn't meant to be smaller, as a way to avoid the discomfort of change. These are self-limiting beliefs that become self-fulfilling prophecies.
Christy's story from the book is a good illustration of breaking this cycle. She found herself yelling at her kids daily, a behavior she knew wasn't helpful. It just created this vicious cycle of yelling back, escalating conflict.
Stressful home environment.
Totally. Through reflection, she learned that it was perfectly normal for kids to test boundaries and break rules, but she had profound choices in her response.
Wow.
By consciously imposing effective, consistent consequences rather than reacting impulsively with yelling, their home became much happier, calmer, and more respectful. She stopped repeating her discipline mistakes and, as a result, felt far more in control and effective as a parent.
Or consider Julie, who came to therapy
Well,
utterly frustrated because she kept gaining and losing the same 40 pounds for over a decade.
the yo-yo effect.
Exactly. Every single time she lost the weight and achieved her goal, she'd unconsciously relax, allowing herself second helpings, celebrating with indulgent ice cream, skipping workouts. She'd question her self-control, feeling defeated, but it was really about repeating the exact same mistakes that caused her to gain weight in the first place over and over again. She'd hit a goal, then revert right back to the habits that created the problem.
The actionable insight here is powerful and requires real intentionality. You must learn from your mistakes and create a concrete, proactive plan for future success. First, study the mistake. Don't just dismiss it. Reflect deeply on what went wrong, your specific thoughts, your behaviors, any external factors that contributed.
Post-mortem.
Exactly. Then engage in honest self-evaluation. What could you have done better? Did you give up too soon? Did you make too many excuses? Finally, develop a clear, written future strategy. Identify clear, concrete, actionable steps you can do differently next time. Creating a detailed, written plan, much like drug rehab patients develop to manage their recovery, is absolutely essential for sustained, lasting change. It moves it from just intention to tangible action.
And self-discipline strategies are vital here too. You need to consciously practice tolerating discomfort, whether it's the intense craving for an X or a sweet treat. Use positive, affirming self-talk like, I can do this, or this temporary discomfort leads to lasting freedom.
Keep your eye on the prize.
Right. Keep your long-term goals vividly in mind, which helps decrease the immediate temptations. Impose smart restrictions on yourself if you overspend when you're out with friends, maybe only carry a small amount of cash. And create a compelling list of reasons not to repeat the mistake, reading it to yourself when you feel tempted. This preemptive planning is key to overcoming those old patterns.
Milton Hershey, the chocolate magnate, is a fantastic, almost legendary example of learning from mistakes. He famously had multiple failed candy businesses, faced significant financial troubles before finally succeeding, first with caramel, and then, most famously, with chocolate.
Didn't know he failed so many times.
Yeah. What set him apart was his ability to learn from each and every failure, noting, for instance, how fresh milk made excellent candy. Even when sugar became scarce during World War I, leading to more financial trouble, he paid off his loans and continued building his empire. His ability to dissect his failures and adapt helped him go from a string of failed ventures to creating one of the world's biggest chocolate companies.
Roland Macy is another one. He had multiple failed dry goods stores before he finally struck gold with Macy's department store. He rigorously studied his mistakes, analyzing what went wrong, from poor store locations to even the unfortunate timing of his first parade, which was apparently a flop.
Really, the Thanksgiving Day parade.
Well, an early version. He applied that hard-won knowledge directly to create the incredibly successful Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade we know now, a global institution. He didn't make excuses or blame external factors. He took full responsibility for his failures, learned from them, and used that knowledge to build a monumental success.
So what's not helpful in this realm? Making endless excuses, reacting impulsively without thought, consistently putting yourself in situations where you're likely to fail, or operating under the misguided assumption that you can always resist temptation or are somehow doomed to repeat your mistakes forever. Let's move on to Chapter 9, Celebrating Others' Success. Mentally strong people, as the author clarifies, don't resent other people's success. This is a crucial distinction. Nelson Mandela's famous quote truly nails it again. Resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies.
It's hard. It speaks to the profound self-destructive nature of holding on to such a toxic emotion.
It really does. Consider Dan from the book, who on the surface was very successful and friendly, yet he secretly harbored this deep, biting resentment for his colleague Michael's achievements in luxurious vacation homes.
Why do we so often fall into that trap of resentment? What drives it?
Often it stems from deep insecurity. Someone else's success can, for some, unintentionally magnify their own perceived shortcomings, making them feel less than. We might also operate under the wrongful, often subconscious assumption that good fortune comes easily to others, especially those we deem less deserving. Or sometimes we might genuinely lack clarity about our own desires, blindly coveting what others have without truly wanting it for ourselves.
Social media has regrettably amplified this phenomenon exponentially, hasn't it?
Oh, hugely. A revealing 2013 study titled Envy on Facebook found that people frequently felt anger and resentment, not just from fancy vacation photos, but even from seemingly innocuous things like the number of birthday wishes received by friends.
Birthday wishes, seriously.
Seriously. This pervasive social comparison led to an overall decline in life satisfaction among participants. It's quite frightening to think we can become so deeply dissatisfied with our own lives just because a friend received a lot of happy birthdays or posted a nice beach photo. This is definitely not a path to mental strength.
The fundamental problem with harboring resentment is that it truly eats away at you from the inside out. It's a corrosive emotion that sabotages your own efforts by diverting your energy, and it actively prevents you from feeling genuinely good about yourself and your own achievements.
It creates this breeding ground for irrational thoughts about other people, distorting your perception of their success and your own worth, and it creates a barrier between you and genuine connection with others.
So the actionable insight is to rigorously focus on your own path, your own journey. The author suggests a powerful comparison. Compare yourself only to who you were yesterday, not to others. Focus intently on your own unique values and your personal goals.
That's a healthy comparison.
Yeah. And a truly transformative exercise she suggests is to consciously define your life well lived. Imagine yourself at the very end of your life looking back. What accomplishments, what experiences, what relationships would bring you the greatest sense of peace and fulfillment? Is it about accumulating more money, making profound contributions, nurturing deep family bonds, making a lasting difference? What memories would be most important? This exercise clarifies your true north.
And this naturally leads to a profound shift in focus, from taking to giving. Sarah Robinson's story is incredibly moving and illustrates this beautifully. Diagnosed with a brain tumor at just 24, she underwent grueling surgery and chemotherapy.
Oh, young.
So young. But instead of asking, why me, or succumbing to self-pity, her singular focus shifting to how she could help others affected by cancer. This led her to create Sarah's House, a hospitality house designed to provide a comforting haven for families near treatment centers. She worked tirelessly on this project, even throughout her own arduous chemotherapy treatments.
Wow. Unbelievable strength.
Sarah passed away at the tender age of 26, but her unwavering vision and determination continued to inspire. Her family and friends, propelled by her spirit, continued her mission. They raised almost $1 million within 18 months to create this 9-room hospitality house, which notably operates on a no patient turned away policy.
Amazing legacy.
In her journal, Sarah wrote with incredible wisdom, "I'm the luckiest woman alive, and I have not held back, I do not regret." She profoundly believed life was about helping others, not about spending another day merely at the office. She never wasted a single minute feeling the world owed her anything, demonstrating just extraordinary mental strength and a focus on selfless contribution.
And consider Milton Hershey once again. We mentioned him earlier for learning from his mistakes, but he also embodies this principle of not resenting others' success. He famously didn't resent H.B. Reese.
The peanut butter cups guy.
Yeah. Who started Reese's Peanut Butter Cups while working for Hershey, even using Hershey chocolate as a key supplier. Hershey saw it as part of a larger, flourishing confectionery landscape.
Interesting perspective, abundance mindset.
Exactly. Or think about Peter, one of the founders of Fusion.io, a tech company that became a billion-dollar business after he already left. He expresses genuine happiness for their success, stating, "I don't see how their success robs me of anything. I'm happy to have played my part."
That takes real security and generosity of spirit. What's not helpful here? Constantly comparing yourself to others, looking out only for your own gain, or focusing solely on what you can take rather than what you can contribute or celebrate in others. Next up, Chapter 10. Mentally strong people don't give up after the first failure. This is a critical habit for anyone pursuing a significant goal. We've all been there, right? That first setback feels crushing.
Oh, yeah. The signs that you might be prone to giving up are pretty clear. You only participate in activities where you're already guaranteed to excel. You consistently don't try again after an initial setback. You hold a deep-seated belief that success is solely born from natural talent.
The fixed mindset idea.
Right. Or your self-worth becomes inextricably tied to immediate success, making failure feel absolutely catastrophic. You might make excuses for failure, too.
Susan's dream of becoming a teacher, from the book, perfectly illustrates this trap. She was working as a school receptionist, a job she was good at, but she yearned deep down to be a teacher.
Good.
Her past failure weighed heavily on her. She had dropped out of college years ago due to intense homesickness, crippling shyness, and finding her classes unexpectedly difficult. She had internalized this setback, convincing herself, I'm just not college material.
Ah, that limiting belief again.
Exactly. This is the core problem the author highlights. Attributing failure to a fixed, inherent lack of ability leads directly to what psychologists call learned helplessness. If you truly believe you can improve, if you think your capacity is limited, then you simply won't try, and you'll become paralyzed by that belief.
But Susan's therapist intervened with a powerful real-world example, right?
Yeah, she did. She showed Susan a news headline about a woman who had, against all odds, earned her high school diploma at the remarkable age of 94.
94, wow.
It was a potent, undeniable example that it's truly never too late to pursue a dream, and that age is not, in itself, a barrier to learning or achieving. This leads to the actionable insight. Cultivate genuine grit and unwavering resilience.
Grit, Angela Duckworth's work.
Exactly. She defines grit not just as perseverance, but as this unique combination of perseverance and passion for long-term goals. She's shown that grit is often a better predictor of success than raw IQ.
Interesting.
It's about that marathon runner who not only trains hard, but loves the challenge, loves the process, and keeps showing up even when their muscles scream, all for that distant finish line. Understand that failures are not endpoints, they are invaluable opportunities for profound learning and growth.
Walt Disney himself faced monumental challenges and failures. Before he built his empire, he experienced bankruptcy in his initial cartoon industry venture. His early cartoons were repeatedly rejected by distributors.
I didn't realize he went bankrupt.
Yeah. Yet, he famously persevered, using these setbacks as fuel, and went on to build a multi-million-dollar empire with Disneyland and Disney World, earning more Academy Awards than anyone else in history. His failures didn't defeat him, they motivated and informed him.
Similarly, Wally Amos, the founder of famous Amos Cookies, he famously quit his stable job to pursue his passion for baking. His cookie business expanded rapidly, became a household name.
Love those cookies.
Right. He later, unfortunately, lost control and ownership of his company due to some poor business decisions. But even then, he continued to fight tirelessly to regain his brand. This illustrates that not giving up doesn't always mean instant perfect success, but rather a continued commitment to your passion, despite significant setbacks. It's about getting back up every single time. Finally, in this extensive deep dive, we come to the last chapter, Chapter 13, a habit that really underpins much of what we've discussed. Mentally strong people don't expect immediate results. This speaks so directly to our modern culture of instant gratification.
Oh, definitely. Everything now.
Exactly. Napoleon Hill, the author of Think and Grow Rich, encapsulated this perfectly ages ago. Patience, persistence, and perspiration made an unbeatable combination for success.
Patience, persistence, perspiration. Love it. Marcy's general dissatisfaction with her life in the book is a classic example of this impatience at work. Despite outwardly having an okay life, she felt this pervasive sense of unhappiness and restlessness.
Just kind of blah.
Yeah. She admitted to reading countless self-help books, but rarely applying their teachings, often giving up on therapy quickly because she always wanted that magic pill for immediate transformation.
A quick fix.
Right. She even desired a master's degree, a goal that would profoundly enhance her career and life, but she thought it would take forever to achieve, leading her to put it off for a full 10 years. That forever mindset became this huge, self-imposed barrier.
And this impatience is incredibly widespread, fueled by the relentless pace of our fast-moving, technology-driven world. We are constantly bombarded with these seductive, overnight success stories, the sudden rise of YouTube stars, reality TV celebrities, the rapid ascent of startups like Twitter, iPod, Amazon.
Right. We only see the highlight reel.
Exactly. What we often conveniently overlook are the long, arduous struggles and the immense hidden work behind them. Twitter's founder, for example, spent 8 years creating various mobile and social products before Twitter finally took off. Apple's iPod took 3 years and 4 distinct versions before sales truly skyrocketed. Amazon, now this behemoth, wasn't profitable for a full 7 years after its inception.
7 years?
Yeah. These curated stories of instant gratification fuel our own desire for immediate results, and our own inner distress makes us desperately seek instant relief rather than embracing the long game.
The profound problem with expecting immediate results is that these unrealistic expectations inevitably lead to giving up too soon, causing you to abandon promising endeavors right before a potential breakthrough.
You quit right before the finish line sometimes.
Could be. This, in turn, means missing out on countless opportunities that require sustained effort. And perhaps most damaging, it leads to chronic dissatisfaction, a perpetual sense that things aren't happening fast enough, which steals your joy and undermines your self-worth. Marcy, as we heard, overlooked many genuine chances to improve her life because she consistently expected immediate, dramatic results.
The actionable insight, then, is to consciously create realistic expectations and critically pace yourself for the long haul. Truly understand that authentic, lasting success is rarely, if ever, instant.
So how do you do that?
Strategies to cultivate this include acknowledging how long it will really take and how genuinely difficult it might be, like paying off $100,000 in debt on a $50,000 income won't happen in 6 months, no matter how much you wish it would. Find accurate, measurable ways to track your progress by celebrating small milestones along the journey, rather than waiting exclusively for the final daunting goal.
Celebrate the small wins.
Absolutely. Learn to cope with inevitable negative feelings in healthy, adaptive ways. Develop a clear plan to resist temptation, anticipating where you might falter, and consistently, patiently pace yourself for what will likely be a marathon, not a sprint.
What's consistently unhelpful in this context? Expecting instant results from complex efforts, falsely assuming there's no progress if it's not immediately visible, or waiting until the very, very end of your journey to celebrate any of your hard-won achievements. Celebrate the small victories. They fuel the larger journey.
So what does all of this mean for you, our listener, and for the journey of building genuine mental strength? This deep dive into 13 things mentally strong people don't do reveals that mental strength isn't some innate, unchangeable superpower reserved for a select few. It's a cultivable skill, fundamentally about balanced thinking, allowing both emotion and reason to guide you.
Right, that thermostat idea.
Exactly. It's about accepting what you genuinely can't control and channeling your energy into what you can. It's about courageously embracing change, diligently learning from your mistakes, overcoming the corrosive trap of resentment, and cultivating the profound virtue of patience. These aren't isolated concepts. They are interconnected pillars, each supporting and strengthening the others, forming the very architecture of true resilience.
Building mental strength is, unequivocally, a continuous, lifelong journey. There will be times, inevitably, when emotions get the best of you, when you momentarily believe thoughts that aren't true, or when old, comfortable habits resurface. The goal is never absolute perfection, but rather consistent effort and continuous growth.
It's about progress, not perfection.
Precisely. It's about developing a profound self-awareness, recognizing your personal triggers, identifying those irrational thoughts that creep in, and catching those self-sabotaging behaviors that we've discussed today before they take root and derail you.
And the transformative power of these shifts really lies in small, consistent actions. It's not about grand overnight gestures, but about improving just a little each day, making those micro choices that align with your stronger self.
Yeah.
By consciously embracing these shifts, you're not just reading a book or listening to us talk, you're actively transforming your entire approach to life, your internal operating system. This leads quite directly to increased happiness, more authentic and fulfilling relationships, significantly less stress, and ultimately greater and more sustainable success in everything you pursue.
The author writes with such profound insight, until we look directly at our minds, we don't really know what our lives are about. So as you reflect on today's deep dives, maybe just take a moment. What one don't from today's conversation are you ready to consciously stop doing so you can truly begin to understand and profoundly shape the life you want, the life you are absolutely capable of living?